Hello Moto, welcome to part 2 of the 4-part series. In this part we're going to be adding the background, adding the login and the explore the galaxy, also the login button. Next part we're going to be doing all of this stuff in the middle, and then in the final part we're going to add the icon. As you can see, we do not have the thing in the middle. So what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to start with a column right about... Let me just, so that I can see where it ends, I'll do box end right there, because that's where we end the box, the main container for everything. So we're going to do column. You know the drill. This is how you make a column. We're going to do horizontal alignment equals alignment center horizontally, because we want everything in the middle. Modifier is of type modifier. Make sure you have higher than a 5th grade education and know how to spell modifier. Important, a comma. Once that's done, we want our big container column to fill up the entire screen. You can't really see it, so let me just prove it's there by doing background color black. There it is. Once we have our column in place, this is going to be like the big container for everything. This takes up the entire screen. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to add our actual column. Add in a nice... give it its own bit of styling. Going to do just about the same thing we do everywhere here. Horizontal alignment equals alignment center horizontally. Modifier is of type modifier, which entails... We're going to get to that now. First off, by building this thing, let's just add some components so that we can see where it is. Big login text right up at the top. That's not where we want it. We want it to be somewhere nice over here in the middle. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to give the column a little background. I'm going to do dot background and background color. If you know how to spell, coding is pretty easy. So for the background color for the column, we're using a very specific color, which we are going to be reusing a lot. So we're going to make another variable. Or technically, it's a value. It's not a variable. Colors. Making one is just as easy as making an image. For this, it's going to be val background color. It is going to be a color. To get hex codes in Jetpack Compose and Android Studio, you can just copy paste the hex code, but you need to add 0xFF at the start of the code to make it usable. Our hex code that we're going to be using is 090011. Well, this is just the hex code that we want to use. You can see login got filled in over there. Now, once we're done with column, once we've added that, we're going to go back to our column. And we're going to just add a little spacer inside of it. Or we're going to add a little spacer in front of it. Just to put it in the correct position. So modifier equals modifier. Then we're going to do dot size in 70 dp. Gonna have to import dp. dp is a unit of measurement in Jetpack Compose and Android Studio. It's like pixels. Object size uses pixels. Text size doesn't use dp. Text size uses sp. It's just about the same thing, but different for no reason. So 70 is not really enough. We need something more like 138. Perfect. Now, for our column, we have a background already. Then we're going to do fill max height, just to get it to go all the way. We're going to give it some padding. Padding is like margins, based on context. Android Studio and Jetpack Compose will discern whether you want the padding around the object or on the inside of the object. For now, we want it on the inside. I think about 25 dp would be correct. Let's make those corners at the top a little bit round. some nice rounded corners. So this is where it gets a bit complicated. To round corners, you need to do dot clip shape, rounded corner shape. That's very complex. I know some people can understand that. Top start is code speak for top left, and top end is code speak for top right. So I think login is a little bit high up because remember, we've got to make room for our little icon up at the top. So I'm going to add just a bit more space with a spacer, which is around 70 dp. That moves our text down into, it's about the appropriate position. That's close enough. Then we're going to add some flavor text. This is another text field. Over here you can see we've added explore the galaxy. That's just some nice flavor text. The font size is 20 SP large, that's that big. The login, however, is 45 SP, so that's a nice scale of reference for you. We've set it to bold to make it pop more, and the color white to have it contrasting very well against the background. I think they're a bit close together, however, so I'm going to add a little itty bitty spacer. That's just 8 dp tall, so that we have just a little bit more space in between those. I think that's very nice. And then, just for some good measure, I'm going to add a spacer after that one, which is about 30 dp or more. If you click on your preview, you can see each of your components, like you can see over here. Here's our first really big spacer. Here's the second spacer. Here's login. Here's our... So as you can see on the right over here, our column is a bit like... It's a bit of space there on the sides that we don't want. It's a bit thin. So if we go ahead and change fill max height to fill max size, this will have the effect of filling the max height and the max width at the same time. But because we have this spacer up at the top here, it's going to respect it, and it's not going to fill that bit as well. So then we can have a nice background up here at the top. Moving on, I think we should add the login button. So all the way at the bottom, past the spacer, we're going to go add a button. And if you create a button, it's going to appear with an on-click function. We don't really have an on-click function for this. This is where you get to add your own thing. So I'm just going to do add own functionality here. So you can go and add that on your own when you're done with the tutorial. Next up though, the button still needs some styling. It looks kind of haha. There's nothing there, it's just a blob. So what we're going to do is we're going to do colors. Buttons and text fields are the two components that have very specific ways to style them, which I hate. I hate it. But we'll get into text fields more in the next part. So for colors, we're going to do button defaults dot button colors. Go into this, and we're going to do container color equals button color. Button color is another variable that we're going to be creating because it's another specific color that we're going to be using a lot. So let's just go ahead and copy the background variable or value and just paste it in below it. But we're going to do button color. And the color that we're going for is 0xFF7920C2, capital C. There we have a nicely colored button. Continuing on from that, we still need to add one more field, so we'll do a comma, because this separates all of our modifier fields. We'll have modifier equals to modifier. Like I taught you, that's just how it is. And then we're going to do padding. We don't want padding on the top or bottom, we want a nice long thin button, so we're going to do padding horizontal equals 10 dp. This will give us a nice long thin button once we add our text. Which we're going to do now, actually. Text is equal to, over here we're just going to do quotes and then login. Now we have a login button. But it looks kind of haha, so we're going to do some more styling. Text align equals text align center. You know what, let's have another modifier. I think we should have two. Because Jetpack Compose in Android Studio was made by a raving lunatic. So we're going to have two modifiers, and then we're going to give it some more padding. Vertical 7 dp. This should thicken the button up a little bit because it was too thin when we were starting. And then that button is a bit small, so I think we're just going to add, or the font is a bit small, so I think we're just going to do font size 18 SP. Should make the button nice and readable. And then it's kind of thin. If you tapping around on the screen like all willy-nilly, like you're gonna miss that quite often. So I think what we should do is we should just say fill max width. Now it's a nice long thin button. That concludes part 2 of the 4-part series. I'll see you in the next video.